All reality, from the movement of fields to the movement of thought, runs on a shared operational logic, the process of dimensional self-registration. But if the underlying code for existence is identical across every scale, we are left with a massive discrepancy in the texture of that reality. We see the rigid, mathematical exactitude of an electron on one side, and the fluid, varied, phenomenologically rich nature of human consciousness, the anthropon, on the other. Both systems execute a logic of discrete experience, meaning they both register distinct nows. If the operation is the same, then the difference we perceive isn't about what the system is made of, but how that system is linked together. The discrepancy is a matter of structural topology. To understand how a rigid physical law scales into a fluid, conscious thought, we have to map how the discreteness of a quantum behaves as architectural complexity increases. We will trace how physical structures act as dimensional bottlenecks, how complexity opens new phase-space axes, and how the system uses attention to tune the bandwidth of reality. Solving this mechanical scaling issue allows us to integrate human consciousness seamlessly into fundamental physics, preserving its richness without treating it as a miraculous exception. Dimensionality never appears in the physical universe as an undifferentiated infinite totality. Instead, it organizes into specific conglomerations, organized networks of linkages that bind isolated points into larger architectures. Within these networks, a single node only registers the specific linkages that connect directly to it, effectively ignoring the vast majority of the system upstream. This chart represents two complex molecules. As they drift toward an interaction, we might expect a total exchange of data, but that isn't what happens physically. The interaction occurs strictly through these specific, localized atomic bonds. These localized binding regions function as dimensional bottlenecks. They filter out the immense complexity of the upstream molecule, passing forward only a highly compressed, abstracted representation of the data. We call this geometric constraint the principle of nodal dimensional closure. Any physical node, including a conscious one, experiences only the terminal abstraction of the linkages that successfully couple into its central registry. When physical structures link together and form these bottlenecks, they do more than just stack existing data. The act of linkage unlocks entirely new axes in dimensional phase space. An isolated atom has strictly limited degrees of freedom, but once it binds into a larger geometry, the resulting molecule operates under a new set of geometric rules. These new vectors are co-emergent degrees of freedom. These axes enable the system to articulate itself in ways that were physically impossible at the lower atomic layer. Because structure and experience are two descriptions of the same event, every new structural access creates a corresponding experiential access. These new degrees of freedom generate classes of resonance and feeling that a single atom could never register. Emergence, then, is the qualitative enrichment of a system's capacity to feel and know reality. Across every scale, we can observe a consistent relationship between a system's topology and the precision of its states. The simpler the architecture, the sharper the resulting quantum. On this bandwidth spectrum, the far left represents the electron regime, a single, perfectly sharp spike. Because an electron has minimal internal degrees of freedom, its resonance remains incredibly stable across the lifespan of the universe. This rigid stability provides scaffolding for the physical universe. In the biological regime, complex feedback loops widen the quantal bandwidth into overlapping curves. Finally, the anthropon, human cognitive phase space, operates across massively layered couplings. Because of this hyperdimensional topology, the human moment operates across a vastly broader quantal bandwidth. The fluid, phenomenological richness of your current awareness is the exact qualitative signature we should expect from a wideband quantum stabilization. This broad bandwidth creates a mechanical challenge. Within a system as complex as the anthropon, how does a specific reality stabilize into a coherent experience without dissolving into noise? The system achieves stability through a universal mechanism we call attention. In this framework, attention is far more than a cognitive preference. It is a systemic operator, the dynamic weighting of resonance pathways across the entire field. Attention acts as an internal spectroscopic instrument, scanning the wideband waveform for stable patterns. This filter tunes, selects, and foregrounds the accessible resonance bandwidths. By amplifying specific dimensional linkages, attention forces a broad probability cloud into a single, stabilized experiential quantum. Attention is the universe's tool for bandwidth selection, allowing a complex node to actively crystallize its own state of registration out of infinite possibility. This is the full architecture of experience. Reality propagates through successive compressions of registrational relevance. The universe continuously generates structural complexity, bottlenecks that data into abstractions, and uses those abstractions to unlock new dimensional axes. Human awareness, the anthropon, is the terminal abstraction horizon of this unbroken signal chain. We don't experience the trillions of atoms in our body directly. We experience the final, unified registrational abstraction of that system, stabilized by systemic attention. This brings us to our final investigation, the concept of identity shift. What happens to the structure of reality when this terminal node stops identifying with the abstracted signals and instead recognizes the underlying registry itself? The human mind exists as a highly evolved wideband node of the universe, an instance of the cosmos looking back at